Okay, Jerry Carvassier here, and I'm going to explore the difference between what we call high bit and low bit imaging. And in this case here we have 8 bits versus 16 bits, and kind of in color correction and tone corrections it's essential to work with the 16-bit image file versus the 8-bit. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to just kind of illustrate what happens when we work with the 8-bit image. We call this one low bit bakery TIFF, and I'm just going to create a levels adjustment, an embedded one at this case, by going to image adjust levels, and I'm going to bring up the levels dialog box. I'm just going to grab the white eyedropper, and I'm going to place the white eyedropper on this white component of the bakery sign. So I'll click once, and you can see the huge redistribution of the information. So I'll go back and forth here. You can see how that information gets redistributed within the histogram, and it takes on this very combed effect. Okay, that means that we're losing transition between our continuous tone. We're losing bits of data in the process of making this adjustment. It's rather severe. I'm going to say OK to that, and we'll move over to the 16-bit image here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the same levels adjustment, and we're going to use the white eyedropper, and we're going to click over here on the sign, the bakery sign, in the white area, and click it. And you'll notice that we've got a bit of combing, in fact a lot of combing, but if we go and update our histogram up here, you'll find that the continuous tone information is starting to smooth out. Well, this means that we have depth of data within this image. Now we have 16 bits versus 8, so we've got double the file size actually, and the comparison to be made would be to go back to the low bit and relaunch the levels command to see that combed effect. Whereas if we went to the 16-bit image and we do this, notice that the redistribution of data is smoother. So the advantage of working in 16-bit is that our image adjustments aren't quite as destructive, and so we can preserve the information. So let's take it one step further and just take a quick look at the information associated with a selection that I've pre-made here. So I'm going to load this selection, and it's the windows and the garage area here. Now I'm going to do a levels adjustment on the information within those areas. So the content of the histogram now is this selected area. And notice how broken up the histogram is. Now the interesting thing is you can see by moving the midtone slider to the left that we start to pick up this pixelization here, and it's quite heavy. If we look in a little bit closer, you can see it's really quite noisy in that shadow area. So let's just say, let's take a look at the 16-bit and do the same thing, and I'll kind of give you an illustration of where we're at with the same selection in the same area. Okay, so what I'll do is, again, I'm going to load up my pre-selection. In this case here, I'm going to go to the levels command, which is now the content of the selected area, and the histogram represents that. Notice it's quite smooth in comparison to the other 8-bit image, and as we draw up the cursor or the triangle for the midtone slider to the left, our image doesn't fall apart as quickly. Okay, notice there's smooth transitions until we reach a certain point, but very smooth in comparison to the 8-bit image. So we can infer from this that having more information allows us to get smoother transitions in our tone and color when making adjustments in Photoshop CS4 using high-bit images, that meaning 16-bit in Photoshop. Okay, that's kind of the definition of working with 8 versus 16, and the redistribution of the information isn't quite as severe.